This is the new made by Google Pixel 9 Pro flagship smartphone, and oh my goodness is she pretty. But is there enough going on here to make you actually want to upgrade to her? Let's discuss. What's up, internet? I'm Brian MacDuff, aka BMac, and welcome to another video. So yes, indeed, today I do have with me here the made by Google Pixel 9 Pro XL smartphone, Google's latest flagship smartphone offering, with clearly some major design changes going on the outside this year. But what about what's going on the inside? First things first, I do need to give a huge thank you and a shout out to Google for actually sending out this Google Pixel 9 Pro XL gift from Google for me to be able to check out, review, and enjoy. So Google, thank you. Appreciate you. But with that having been said, I've got a lot to cover with this bad boy right here, so let's just get right into it here, starting things out with the design of the Pixel 9 Pro and how this baby is looking on the outside of the device itself. For one thing, we actually have two different sizes of the Pro Pixel released this year. We have the smaller Pixel 9 Pro model and the more or less usual sizes you're probably used to with the Pixel Pro. This being the Pixel 9 Pro XL. But aside from the two size choices available now, the most obvious change is how different this phone looks this year. I could honestly say that the Pixel 9 Pro is probably one of the best feeling smartphones that I've ever held in my hand. Maybe part of this has to do with the fact that this year, clearly, we have some new squared off edges in the Pixel 9 Pro, with of course a full width protruding camera band like usual, but a band this year that actually stands alone rather than blending into the sides of the device itself. These slight curves at the very edges of the edges allows this phone, I think, once again to feel so great in your hand. And you're gonna notice here that Google actually decided to go with this shiny polished mirror finish for the squared off edges on the Pixel 9 Pro, as opposed to the matte finish that you're getting around the camera module. Personally, I would have preferred a matte finish identical to that matte finish that we have on the outside part of the camera housing, but it's a step in the right direction. We have squared off edges now, and that's something to be happy with. And the frame itself is still made out of an aluminum material here, as opposed to the stronger and arguably more popular titanium metal material that's being used more and more in smartphones these days. For the front and the back glass, you are getting Gorilla Glass Victus 2. Personally, I probably would have liked to have seen Gorilla Glass Armor. Not a huge deal. I will accept Gorilla Glass Victus 2 as a pretty close second. And all this is complete with an IP68 dust and water resistance rating, essentially life-proofing your Pixel for your everyday activities near any kind of dust or water. Now, as is almost always the case with Pixel devices, I do need to point out here how amazing the internal haptics are. And I promise you, I'm not being dramatic when I say the haptics in and of themselves are one of the main reasons why I look forward to and enjoy using the Pixel 9 Pro so much. Whether it's just typing or swiping, using this device is just so satisfying because of those haptics. With the colors at the Pixel 9 Pro being available in this year, ranging from rose quartz to hazel to obsidian to porcelain, myself currently throughout this review, of course, using the porcelain color. And as is usually the case with Google Pixel devices, I'm loving the color selection here. I probably would have liked to have gotten my hands on the obsidian color because of how unbelievably beautiful it looks, but even the porcelain color here, everything, just what Google does with designing the colors and the overall aesthetic of these devices, it's always so gosh darn pretty. But complementing the outside of the Pixel 9 Pro, of course, is going to be the display and how this device looks and how pretty it is when you're looking at it. The Pixel 9 Pro features a 6.3-inch display, while the Pixel 9 Pro XL features a 6.8-inch display, with both models featuring LTPO OLED always-on technology, 120 Hz refresh rates, and HDR10+ support. I, of course, would have liked to have seen support for Dolby Vision HDR here, but we do at least get HDR10+, which is going to allow you to watch a wide catalog of HDR content on the Pixel 9 Pro. With pixel density ratings clocking in at 495 ppi for the Pixel 9 Pro and 486 ppi for the Pixel 9 Pro XL, both very high pixel density ratings, very much on par with what you would expect out of a flagship smartphone these days. On the subject of bezels do seem to be a little bit smaller this year, and honestly, I'd consider the bezels to be all but unnoticeable. In terms of brightness, needless to say, this baby gets bright, and I have no problem whatsoever using this thing in pretty much any kind of lighting condition, even in direct sunlight. I'm extremely happy with the brightness ratings of the Pixel 9 Pro display. Under the display itself, you are once again getting a fingerprint scanner. This year, however, it's going to be an ultrasonic fingerprint scanner instead of an optical fingerprint scanner, which should make fingerprint scans even quicker, snappier, and more reliable than I already thought they were in the Pixel 8 Pro. And then don't forget, you do still get Class 3 face unlocking capabilities here on the Pixel 9 Pro, further adding to the secure but seamless phone unlocking experience. But as we all know, the Pixel has pretty much always been known for its camera system. So what's the camera system looking like this year in the Pixel 9 Pro? I'm just gonna tell you straight up, on paper, not a whole heck of a lot has changed with the camera system on the Pixel 9 Pro. In fact, the selfie camera is the lens with the biggest upgrade this year. But what this means is you're still getting your 50 megapixel f1.7 wide angle lens with OIS. You're still getting a 48 megapixel f2.8 telephoto lens with OIS and a 5x optical zoom. And you are still getting a 48 megapixel ultra wide lens, but this year with a faster f1.7 aperture as opposed to an f.2 aperture. But this also does surprisingly come with a smaller sensor, leaving the biggest upgrade actually for the selfie lens, measuring in at a whopping 42 megapixel f2.2 lens. So if you like taking selfies, you're probably gonna be happy with that upgrade. In terms of video, you're able to shoot up to 8K 30 frames per second, 4K 60 frames per second, or 1080p slow-mo at 240 frames per second. And it should probably come as no surprise that, once again, the Pixel 9 Pro photos come out as industry leaders in terms of what's capable in a smartphone camera system. The dynamic range is insanely good, the overall photo composition is impressive, photos on every single camera lens in almost any shooting scenario is almost always perfectly captured. And all of that before you even start to use any of the AI photo editing features that are built in. Google is constantly harnessing the power of AI and machine learning to take your photography to the next level, even going so far as to allow you to add yourself into a photo when you're the one taking it, which happens to be actually one of the flagship features only available on the Pixel 9 Pro, at least at the time of making this video. So I think it's pretty clear that Google is continuing to explore how to get more and more out of the cameras through software and AI, which is important here because, as we already discussed, some pretty minimal upgrades to the camera system as it relates to hardware this year on the Pixel 9 Pro, unless of course you're a selfie king or queen who loves that front-facing camera, and if that's the case, you do you, boo-boo. But to pull off all the AI work and to round out the device as a whole, you're gonna need some performance here. And what is the performance looking like on the Pixel 9 Pro? The Pixel 9 Pro ships with the Google Tensor G4 chipset, which one would expect to be faster and more powerful than last year's Google Tensor G3 chipset, which it is, but only slightly. I will point out this year, however, that you are getting the addition of a new vapor chamber in the Pixel 9 Pro, which should actually allow for, of course, more efficient cooling, but also a little bit better battery life. That plus the fact that you are actually getting an additional 4 gigabytes of RAM for a total of 16 gigabytes of RAM now in the Pixel 9 Pro device is pretty awesome. The G4 is gonna be better than the G3, but even if it's only marginally better, let's not forget how great the Pixel performance is to begin with on-the-fly photo and video editing, sometimes harnessing the power of AI, the occasional video game, and of course multitasking on the device. All that plus the customization that I run, it's all been smooth, quick, and reliable as ever. It might not be an industry leader as it relates to performance, but everything that I personally want to pull off on this device has been smooth, snappy, I've been productive, I've been enjoying my time with this. I don't feel like the phone is throttling me with what I want to get out of the performance of a smartphone. Rounding all this out, you are getting 5G and ultra wideband support, along with support for Bluetooth 5.3, and support for the SBC, AAC, aptX HD, LDAC, LC3, and Opus audio codecs. I love to see the wide range of Bluetooth audio codecs supported here on the Pixel 9 Pro. In terms of storage, you are getting 4 options. You're getting 128 gigs, 256 gigs, 512 gigs, or 1 terabyte. But with all these features we're talking about, how long can you actually expect the battery to last for? What's the battery life looking like on the Pixel 9 Pro? The Pixel 9 Pro is housing a 4,700 milliampere hour battery, while the Pixel 9 Pro XL is housing a 5,060 milliampere hour battery. Both respectable battery sizes in their own rights, but what's important is how these batteries actually relate to usage time. I have my settings set pretty high on my Pixel 9 Pro. I have the screen resolution set to full. I have my smooth motion 120 Hz refresh rate setting turned on, and my brightness is set pretty high usually as well, usually sitting around 85%. And with my typical daily usage of the Pixel 9 Pro, I could confidently say that I could expect anywhere from around 6 to 7 hours of screen on time, which is definitely gonna last me an entire day in terms of actual usage before I gotta plug this thing back onto the charger. So once again, a marginal upgrade as it relates to battery performance over last year's Pixel 8 Pro model, but once again, in and of itself is pretty solid battery performance that I'm happy with. Not a leader as it relates to battery performance. There's other smartphones that last quite a bit longer, but it lasts me all day, and ultimately that's what's most important for me. When it comes time to recharging your Pixel 9 Pro, it is capable of up to 37 watts of wire charging, which should get you from around 0 to 70% battery in just 30 minutes. Fast charging that I'm actually very happy with. With support for wireless charging at 23 watts using the Pixel stand, or 12 watts using a Qi certified wireless charger. And you still do once again get support for reverse wireless charging here at 4.5 watts. Perfect for if you're in a bind and you gotta charge up those wireless earbuds. But with all this having been said, here are my final thoughts on the Pixel 9 Pro and whether or not it's the Pixel smartphone that we've been waiting for. At a quick glance, you can see that the Pixel 9 Pro is an absolute beauty of a smartphone. That's also kinda more or less where the Pixel 9 Pro starts to slow down. From a design perspective, the Pixel 9 Pro is my favorite Pixel to date. It's got those squared off edges, it feels amazing in your hand, it is so fun to interact with, and is packed with pretty much everything I could want in a flagship smartphone. But looks aren't everything, and if you were expecting the Pixel 9 Pro to be a huge upgrade over the Pixel 8 Pro, that's just unfortunately not what's going on here. The rear-facing cameras are more or less the same, with the selfie camera actually being the star of the show this year. The performance is just marginally better than last year, even though there is a new chipset involved. And even the battery performance is just a tad bit better, despite the inclusion of that vapor chamber we keep talking about. So unless you're crazy like me and one of the things you love most in a device is how it looks, how it feels, and the overall aesthetic, there's probably not a whole heck of a lot of reason to upgrade to the Pixel 9 Pro, especially if you're coming from the Pixel 8 Pro. But then again, do not forget that even though these upgrades are only marginal, they are marginal upon a bar that has already been set so high from the Pixel smartphone itself. So in that case, still pretty awesome to see all that the Pixel is capable of now. It's just now in a prettier package. As always, for the latest deals, prices, promos, and information for the Pixel 9 Pro, you can of course always head to my affiliate link, bmac.link/Pixel9Pro, or of course, as always, there's gonna be clickable links in the video description box and in the comment section below, so check those out. With that having been said, I've got some extra replies and threads replies and even some YouTube comment replies that I got to reply to that I saved specifically for dooming on the Pixel 9 Pro because it's so fun to type with. I will see you guys in my next video.